Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and welcome aboard. Welcome to yet another edition of the Pan-African Pyramid show here at Fairway Hotel. We are always live at Fairway Hotel every Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. and the entrance is absolutely free. This is the People's Pan-African Parliament here in Kampala at Fairway Hotel. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe, your speaker. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're privileged that once again we are touching on a very bitter story that's happening. And I think this is the second week since it started unfolding in Gaza, in Palestine, or call it Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some historical factors that have led to this Palestine and Israel war. But most of us right now are making judgments, rushing to make judgments based on what has just happened a week ago. We are forgetting the factors that have been on since 1948. There is a group of people who didn't have a place of abode. And these people, they can't accepted them. After accepting them, many decades later, these people are trying to demand for more rights than others. That has been the conflict. I don't want to blame this or that, but that has been the main fact. That someone you accepted in your home, a time comes and he wants actually more rights in your home than yourself. When you fight that this is my home, and probably you injure him, you, the world, you are judging the injured. You're not judging where did this come from. Why is this person demanding for it from my home more than me? If we was claiming that we should have equal rights to live in your home, maybe that would be understood. Somebody saying I must be the one even to give you right to move outside your home. I must be the one even to acknowledge how many children of yours from your family must go to school and what type of education. There is, in Gaza, there is no other largest open prison than Gaza. It's an open prison. So we need to have these historical factors for us to be able to judge. Let us judge based on what actually is on ground. When did it start? How did it start? How is it going? That's number one. Number two, I don't think I agree with anybody, including the cowboy American, who says, I am the peacemaker, like Mr. Kashaya. So Kashaya comes and says, Irumba, how many children of yours have they killed? They have killed 10 sons. Go and kill 100. That is America telling Israel. They have killed how many? 10. Go and kill 100. And you're saying you are a peacemaker. But then there are some interests. America for a very long time has actually been boosting and funding Israel against Palestine. The very recent one is when Biden went and opened an embassy. You remember that? All those have been actually fueling conflict. This is the boiling point. The killing of each other from both sides is the boiling point. But could we have done it better? I am not a discusser. I am simply opening the debate. I am privileged that tonight we're having a lecture. We're having a lecture from a visiting freelance journalist and a researcher. And the freelance journalist is from France. His name is Thomas Le Safi. And the other panelists, of course, they are our usual suspects. Mr. James Kashaya is seated in the middle there. Mr. James Kashaya is a researcher, dependable researcher at that, and a human rights consultant. But most of all, he is a Pan-Africanist. And then Mr. Daniel Garama.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
Really pleased to have you you with me because there's something really important I'm gonna try to explain to you today. So I titled my presentation today, Israel-Palestine, the African Antidote. Israel-Palestine, the African Antidote. Okay? So I present the continent as the antidote of what we have observed in Middle East recently. I'm part of those that call a cat and a dog, and I call Israel a colonial power, right? I hope we are all convinced and we all understand that the first issue of the conflict that we're observing, that we're trying to debate, is the issue of land. Okay? Prior to colonialism, many African societies were able to share the land resources fairly. We had really little land issues, right? But then when colonialism was introduced, what did he do? He took the land of locals, indigenous people as they call it. So we're thinking of the Maasai maybe in east of Kenya, we're thinking of a population like the Luo. They took their land and they settled white settlers, right? And did those settlers work on those farms? No. Who was working? The Africans. I heard it somewhere here, right? So it's very important we keep that in mind because this is your collective experience. This is where we're starting from. Israel, Palestine, and African antidote. What do you see here? Do you see Jews? What happened to them? There were Jewish people that considered themselves Arabs. Sometimes Tuaregs, sometimes Berber, but they were multiple identity. They used to live just before colonialism. Just before. They used to live in North Africa on the Ottoman Empire. Under the Ottoman Empire was not like the Muzungu empires. They were not centralized and highly violent. They were decentralized and led to a local elite to handle the reality of every day. So there were much more freedoms. And the reality of the Ottoman Empire comes from Turkey, North Africa, Palestine. All the society were under one empire for a certain time. And all the societies have Jews, Arabs, Turkish people, Berber and Tuaregs, right? So it is important we understand there's only one place, only one single place in the entire world, only one continent that hosts Jews that were free and safe. It's important we understand that the Jewish were kicked out of Europe. Where did they go? Where did they find over heaven? Where did they find a safe place? They went on the other side of the Mediterranean. They went on the African continent. This is the only place where in the history of Jewish people, there never been attempt of massive killing, genocide, or treating them differently. They participated from 1492. They left Europe and settled in North Africa. And what happened when they settled in North Africa? They start to experience the cultural life of North African. They melt with people. They were Jewish, as I said. They were Arabs. They were Tuaregs. They were Berbers. But those societies were living with each other the exact same way. We are all from different tribes here, and yet we live in the same city, right? There's not a neighborhood for the Banyankole. There's not a neighborhood for the Luo. No, we're all living with each other, right? Okay, really important to understand that. They start moving to Africa, they live like Africans. They live with others, they didn't divide themselves, right? And then what happened? The French arrived in North Africa. They seized Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, right?
Which people?
The French.
Hey.
Yeah.
They said Algeria?
We colonized North Africa.
You people.
In 19th century. Yes.
You people.
Yes. So, we colonized North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and the Italians took Libya, and Egypt was more or less free, more or less under British influence. But what we have to remember is that suddenly the Jewish become separated. It's really important to understand that that separation came with colonialism. There was no separation like this before. And maybe we should think about it in a Ugandan perspective as what was it before? And what colonialism tried to push us to do, right? We have seen that in Rwanda. Hutu and Tutsi fight after colonialism, not before. And now in Algeria, those people end up having to leave Algeria, end up to leave North Africa, in order to go to the rest of the world, and Israel in particular, right? But remember the movement. The movement was what? They were safe in Africa for 2,000 years. Then the settlers arrived, and the settlers disorganized the society. And the settlers separate them. They do what we call colonial technology, separating people from each other. So they separate. And I think that's really important to understand this, because a lot of people do not know this. A lot of people simply do not know that there were Jewish people in North Africa.
Sephardi in North Africa.
They were called the Sephardi. In Ethiopia, how were they called? Do you know the name of the Ethiopian Jews? They were named the Falasha. And slowly but surely, Israel will emerge. Now let's go on the story of Israel. So the Jews, more or less in the same time that people created Pan-Africanism, the Jews created an ideology,
Zionism and Jewish modernity,
that is called Zionism. Which some of us know about Zionism, isn't it? Because there's two definitions of Zionism. The first one is this one. The second one is coming out of Zionist churches that are African Christian churches. The Zionists that believe that Jewish people will not be safe until they are in Israel. And so this man decided that in 1896, in his pamphlet, Der Jugendstaat, I don't know how to pronounce this, he decided, as the founders of the modern Zionist movement, that Jewish should settle in Israel. Why? Because in Israel they can develop a state just for themselves. Not for Arabs that were there, not for blacks, not for Europeans, no. Only for Jewish people.
for themselves.
Wherever they come from.
For themselves.
For themselves. And people told them, but there's people living there. Right? And for 40 years, they tried to send Jewish people from France, from America, from Turkey, from all around the world, really. And they tried to send them. And for 40 years, it fails. It fails, it fails, and it fails. Mm-hmm. It's important that we understand that having a state is a modern idea. So this Jewish modernity is not something decorrelated from the rest of the movement. But yet we don't have a Pan-African state. We don't. But they do have a Zionist state. So Zionism states that in order to be safe, the Jews have to go to Israel. Do you know, at the beginning of 20th century, before the settlement of Israel, you could go from Gaza, Jerusalem, to Africa, Cairo and Libya, by train. It was connected. But when you listen to the Zionists, they tell you this is a land with no one. This is a land with no culture. This is a land with no civilization. Does that ring a bell? That's what they used to say when Europeans came to Africa. They would say there were no civilization, there were no people here, we just took the land and
they brought civilization here.
But yet, we all know it was fake news. It was not true. Palestine was a thriving province of Greater Syria and the Ottoman Empire from 20th century. It suggested that its cities had developed trade. Its commercial sector and growing infrastructure were growing. There were culture there. They will tell you they were not, but they were. There were people living there. There were people living in good intelligence with each other in different identity. But suddenly, Al-Nakba happened. What happened is the creation of Israel was a violent process. Zionists knew that in order to have a viable Israeli state, in order to have a state for all Jewish people, they need to take out Palestinians. And how did they do it? Now, the creation of Israel was a violent process, and they forced expulsion of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. So Palestine was under British colonialism, and the British were favoring the Jews. So when a Jewish person will arrive in Palestine, rather than just being a Palestinian citizen, he would have guaranteed special rights, and not especially the right of using land. So the equivalent of 1.9 million people were made refugees in 2 years. All of them were pushed out. 78% of historical Palestine was ethnically cleaned. Destroyed, about 530 villages was destroyed. I want to conclude with Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon was a post-colonial thinker, and he's the first thinker, he was from Algeria, and he's the first thinker that say, when you have this type of war, when you have this type of colonialism, two people are victims. Two people are victims. The settler is victim. The settler is a victim because he dehumanizes. So right now the soldiers, Israeli soldiers that entered the Gaza Strip will have to dehumanize Palestinians. They will have to think they're killing dogs or cats or animals, because if they know they're killing humans, they will get crazy, right? So the Sahel dehumanized its own soldiers, and on the other side, the Palestinians hate each other, fight each other, and fight their culture. So the same way colonialism produced some effect on African society and African culture, the very same colonialism will produce the same effect in Palestine and Israel.
Thank you so much.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
The truth of the matter is that there is a colonial project, which is the creation of the state of Israel, that probably started way back before 1948, and the purpose was to create an independent country. If that country is called Israel, so be it, for purposes of geostrategic importance, to further the interests of America and the entire Europe, including the perpetrators of the Holocaust, Germany, in the Middle East.
So to be more clear to the listener, you are saying what is happening in Gaza between Palestine and Israel is a creation of America.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
Free your mind now. Free your mind now.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the creation of Israel also, Israel is one country, if it can be called so, that announces that it is going to bomb areas and kill people, and the entire world applauds. All the major media outlets will thank them for being humane to announce that they are going to kill people, that they have done quite a lot that other countries, actually like Russia, China, and other powers don't announce. For them, they announce, regardless of the fact that we very well know that they close the border because the Strip of Israel is indeed an open prison whereby the entry and the exit is controlled by the state of Israel, menacing looking soldiers with ability to allow you or not to allow you. And even after they have announced and they have again closed the outlet, they go ahead and bomb under the name of using that they use the...
And when they announce America agrees with them and even finances
the entire Europe and
even Biden comes and reinforces
the entire America and Europe, they do that, including now the newfound love for the perpetrators of the same, which was actually the Holocaust, that we so much are forced to admit that it was a global catastrophe, even when we know that slave trade and colonialism on the African continent.
If Putin had done that in Ukraine, how do you think America would have reacted so far?
To announce that they are going to bomb.
Hey,
of course,
and they bomb.
Of course, Putin is not such a psychopath and psychopathic person. He knows that war is war, and he will not pretend about it. It is unfortunate to have somebody who kills and pretends that he is actually the savior. Mr. Speaker, sir, equally so, about 3,500 years ago, it is captured, even in the book of the present-day Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, that actually the Jews have populated the entire state of Israel 3,500 years back. Of course, that is the usual narrative of the recreation of history, but even if that was so, the way they present it is to paint a picture that there was no any other people but it was just the Jews. But the kind of history which you have shared from here says otherwise. Mr. Speaker, sir, also to note is that the other sources, the historical sources, capture that actually both the Palestinians and the present-day Israelis were all referred to as Arabs. Once in the so-called state of Israel, the country called Palestine, they embarked on systematic elimination of the natives, just like they did during the apartheid South Africa, and we have also gotten a share of what they used to do by bombarding, which has not started today, and whoever would go away, they would capture that land, and then they would make sure that they resettle the others, and whoever would come back would not find anything, and that's how they managed to build the state of Israel up to now, including the 1967 war, where they captured the Sinai, the Golan Heights, which they have never returned, and they have continued to rebuild, to erect illegal structures, and also to make sure that they brutalize, dehumanize all those and concentrate them in the open prison called the state, open prison called Gaza, and also create another semblance of a prison called West Bank. Mr. Speaker, sir, finally, the open prison I'm talking about, it has created, of Gaza has created the Hamas. And the Hamas is nothing but an equivalent of Mukomboto Wesizwe, which was a fighting force against apartheid. So they created the inhuman activities in West Bank, have created the Hezbollah, which is another fighting arm, and they cannot be described as a rebel outfit. There is no semblance of any observance of human rights whatsoever in the areas occupied by the Palestinians. They are ruled by a government they never vote, and they are dictated upon how to feed, how to clothe themselves, how to medicate themselves. They have absolutely got no right, and what they are doing is a retaliation out of frustration.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world which seems to be unrealistic. What makes it unrealistic? Man has been in a quest of discovering himself, and until today, man has not discovered himself. So you have 99% lies meddling everywhere than what you seem to be true. Today, this forum being of people who at least have acquired some average knowledge, but really without real knowledge. But what we may assume knowledge, because we're trying to read from here and there, and we have attended the classrooms to learn about doctrines of men and trying to rediscover ourselves. So we live in quite a world of so many contradictions. But let me first speak into this reality. The first thing that I want to unleash is that we are more of spiritual than physical human beings. That's the first reality. It's what we don't know about ourselves. Is that our existence is more of a spiritual existence than a physical existence.
Now, we spiritually live more than a physical.
We have concentrated on the understanding of how we eat, how we go to class, how we associate with one another, how we trade, what we gain. And we have not concentrated so much on our spiritual governance system and our hierarchy and that which lies behind us. And that is where this whole problem is. But ladies and gentlemen, to tell you, the Israeli-Palestinian question, the Middle East question, is something I have understood thoroughly and well enough.
And squarely.
Absolutely. To the dot. I've done enough research about it, and I have understood it well enough. And this is the entire problem that has been disturbing this entire whole earth. Well, the Europeans, where Thomas comes from, created a new term called the world. The world doesn't exist. It's a new creation of an atmosphere, but this is called the earth. We live on an earth. We don't live in the world. And so, we have families where we come from families where brothers fight for land, heritage, inheritance. Because the first law of every human being is preservation, continuity. Because the very first time every man, in some sort of how we have been created, we have a tendency of liking ourselves more than liking even our sibling. So this is a question largely about jealousy of women from that Middle East, jealous of women and their children, and they will digest it. So to differ from my brother Zionism, you see, Zionism is the word that is found in the Bible. Because this Bible talks about this present Jerusalem and talks about another New Jerusalem, the book of Revelations. The New Jerusalem is a picture of a world given, a mystery not yet unveiled. But there, the mission is like the spiritual God of the Jewish Bible, or the God of the Bible, was giving a promise. Is where you hear terms and songs. For you who have attended churches, you've heard of a song. We are marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We marching unto Zion, the city of our God. So what is that? This is not just a song from today. This is a song borrowed out from literature. Literature which is spiritual literature, not the literature that seems to be physical literature. So there happens to be a man who is a grandson of a man called Abraham. And this man, his name is Jacob. The spiritual literature, let's first concentrate on the spiritual literature, is that this man one day meets an unseen person, an identified person. One of the versions called him an angel. He wrestles him because he wanted honor and something secure from him, until this man declared him a God wrestler. So he changes his name from Jacob and he names him Israel. His grandfather, when he was in the land of Hur, present day Iraq, he changed his name from Abram to a name called Abraham. When his wife was Sarai, he changed his name from Sarai and called him Sarah. So this man called
from Sarai to Sarah.
Exactly. This man called Jacob is a man who married 4 women, the 2 and the helpers, and he has 12 boys. So initially, his most beloved boy was of the woman he loved so much, and that was Rachel, and that boy was Benjamin. So in that biblical story, Benjamin's child ruled that land of Israel until his son was called Saul, the handsome man who was chosen by the people who had gone to look for animals. But in this same Israel, which means the land or the people of the 12 sons combined as one tribe, like how you call Uganda or something, the Uganda, the clans of Uganda, which form Uganda, or even in our clans in Western Uganda, like the 2 gentlemen. So there's another man called Judah, who was the 4th son, but he was a very shrewd guy. He was a very tough guy, and he was a very ambitious man. And until coming onto Egypt, Moses and his other brother Aaron are his grandchildren of Judah. So this is spirituality, this is spiritual God. Like how in Africa here we had our own God of the Chwezi, who was worshipped, adored, abused everything. Now this spiritual biblical God gives a mandate to Moses to rescue these people after 400 years. So Moses does not reach and then delegates his power to another man called Joshua. So Joshua, in Numbers 34, 1 to 12, he takes over the mandate. Yes, he takes over. Yes, Joshua. He is given the authority from Moses, and Moses has told him the land which has been given to them in the book of Deuteronomy, as it ends. So to the west is the Great Sea, the Mediterranean. To the north is the Great Sea and Mount Hebron and Hamath, and to the east are those rivers that you see. So that land title of heritage of the land of Israel is clearly defined in this spiritual book.
In the Bible.
Mind you.
In the spiritual book, you're talking about the Bible.
Yes, mind you, gentlemen, mind you. This land title
in the Bible
called Israel.
In the Bible.
Yes, for the
now they're even claiming for the land title for the Bible.
For the 12 children is clearly talked about.
From the Bible.
Mind you. Hold on, Mr. Speaker, sir. Hold on. The land title for all the grandchildren of Abraham is also mentioned, including these 12 tribes, including these Palestinians. Yes. It's like where you die here in Africa and you say, my brother, come, I want to make you an executor of my will. I have given each of these children his property. And the children X is waking up to start fighting for property, for child Y. But let me proceed. So, Israel is for 12 tribes. So, in that spiritual note, a mystery happens. Is that 10 tribes disappear. They go to these other lands in Europe, America, Africa, they disappear. Only 2 tribes remain. The tribe of one man called Levi, the priest, and the tribe of this man called Judah, the 2 sons. So it is from Judah that you have Judaism, the religion they practice, which is founded on the Torah, the 5 books which are found in the Bible. All these land titles and issues where they are written, which they read, recite, and practice everything they have to practice. And it is from this that they form the concept of Jewishness. So while they are in America, the United States of America, these 12 tribes led by the tribe of Judah, the Israelis, the Jews, this is where they say, we are going back to Zion. That is where the concept of Zionism. Zionism simply means the Israelis returning to their land. Why do they seek to conclude and form Zionism, the Zionist movement? It is because, ladies and gentlemen, let us start as Africans, let us be sympathetic. These people were here in Egypt for 400 years as our slaves. 400 years. They did not settle here in peace. They went to Europe. The greatest catastrophe that happened to them was the Nazi catastrophe in Germany. You know how many people that were killed by Hitler. They have not even taken a small piece of this. Not even a small piece. You know how many people, how many Jews Hitler was able to kill?
Yes. Over 6 million.
Yes, my brother. So today, they reach and see that wherever they have gone, you have rejected them. Ladies and gentlemen, they see it as a group and say, what do we do?
Insist on Palestine land.
No. You must leave Palestine. What
do we do? We are not going to live here.
Where are they going? My brother, in that same book, if you read Exodus chapter 23, verse 31, and I will tell you, I will take you in Joshua 13 and Joshua 13, 2-3. Joshua 13, 2-3, when this spiritual God is giving them a blessing of what belongs to him, he gave them these lands. He gave them Gaza, this Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, Ekron, all those lands. And specifically, he says, this land to the Great Sea, which is the Mediterranean Sea, to the Great Sea, the land of the Philistines. Now, the battle of erasing the Philistines, Joshua finished it 584 years ago. Judaism this year counting, ever since they left Egypt, is the year 5,784.
500?
5,784th year. This is the year. For your note, We are 23 years since Jesus Christ went away.
For us,
right,
you and me,
because we
are only 2003 years old.
You write it down.
Yes.
Write it down. Write it down. Write it down, Mr. Speaker, so to understand the things.
We are only 2023 years old.
Yes, Mr.
Since Jesus Christ
Mr.
came back.
Yes, Mr.
These ones are counting 5,784 years.
Since Joshua captured that land.
Now,
Hold on a bit.
No,
Hold on. Write this third one. Write this third.
Okay.
We are 1,444 years since Muhammad formed Islam and started the Muhammadism, what they call Islam. That is
1,444 years.
Exactly. 1,444. Yeah. So the difference, you can calculate the difference from the Christian Revolution, what they call AD. The Romans gave us a good counting.
After this.
Yes.
After this.
I don't do now.
And BC before.
And before Christ.
And
so
BC.
Jesus Christ is the center of the counting of the world.
Yes.
Before him
and after him.
But Jews say no. We're not counting that way. For us, we are counting ever since we came from Egypt. Ever since the new moon was on. The new moon came exactly when they attacked them. The new moon was on a Sunday, that is possible 8th. Today is the 20th minus 8, that is the 12th. Oh, sorry. So today is the 12th day. Yeah, exactly, of the 8th month of this very what? Of this very year that I'm speaking to you. So when they are in Hebrew, yes,
you're making me get lost. Today is what?
Today to them is 12th.
Today is 12th
of the 8th month.
Of the 8th month.
Yes, of this year. Yes. Because they start with when Moses is telling them from today start to count. No, 5,784. So Moses starts to count and they use the lunar system, this moon. Mr. Speaker, sir, when they come to this land, the first they follow in this land was the invasion of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was a very, very strong empire, ladies and gentlemen. The mystery of the New Testament that people don't often speak about in the Bible, the mission of this first Messiah that the Jews talk about, because they have two Messiahs. They have Messiah ben Dawood and Messiah ben Yosef, Joseph. One of the Messiah was a Messiah, military Messiah, revolutionary Messiah. And the other is about the Messiah of taking them in the promised land. So that's why the expectation of Jesus riding on a donkey, if you go back to those who have been appointed, was about the expectations that he was going to invade the Roman Empire, mobilize them for an insurrection. Yet, he did that by destroying the spiritual system. Because the Roman Empire was largely built on an occultic system, of this system of divination, which is based on horoscopes and these other things you see. That one, people like Kashaya will tell you why government was captured on 25th and not celebrated, and it was celebrated on 26th. But Amin had also captured power on 25th. There is an alignment. They call it spiritual alignment. It's a big secret. That's why Muslims pray 5 times a day. They hate it. They don't want to tell you. They will wake up in the morning, go at midday, in the evening, until they reach at 7 p.m. Why are they using specific hours and even raising early in the night? It is about the spiritual alignment, because people practice spiritual lives, but they reach here and they want to pretend to profess physical lives. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, these so-called Philistines of today, let them be subjected to a genetic test.
Philistines, Palestine.
It's modern day said as Palestine. But biblically, it's Philistine. Philistine is Palestine. They are not the Palestinians today are not the biblical Philistines. In the Bible, Palestine existed. And it was the land that was also taken over. This one is the one, it was taken over. It had the Philistines who were erased away. Now these ones who are there, you hold on, Mr. Speaker. These ones who are there, some are grandchildren of Ishmael. Now, these grandchildren of Ishmael, in this very book, the Bible, they had their land. In that book of Joshua, where they were sent away to go, the word Arab, let me first define it, etymology of the word Arab, from a Hebrew word called Arab, or Araba, meaning desert. When this woman was going away, that is Hagar, the African woman, and her son, they went to the desert. So the whole desert, it is mentioned here, the Arabian Peninsula, the land between Egypt and Assyria, all that Saudi Arabia, Yemen, that one. That is their land, that is the portion of their land which they call all the grandchildren of Israel, including Muhammad, and that is their portion. And these current day Arab Palestinians in Palestine. If we are judging this conflict from a portion of truth and facts, we have to go back to the land question. Gaza is Israel. From the sea to the river.
As per the Bible.
Yes, from the land title in the Bible.
The land title?
Yes, that is the land title. It has boundaries.
The Pan-African Pyramid Debate.
Mr. Speaker, all the researchers in the world have it that I've done all the tests, the DNA tests from Israelis and Palestinians. If the question is on origin, who is the native of that area? Because that's the most contentious issue. Who is the native of that area? And then who qualifies to be that land? I think that's the argument. Now, the researchers carried out several DNA tests to find out who are the descendants, who are the owners, or founders, or ancestors of that land. Now, these are the results of all the researchers, because you see, to summarize all what we have, the biblical, the spiritual, the academic aspect of it, who should do what. The result, Mr. Speaker, it was an overlapping genetic conditions from both Palestinians and Israel. Most of them came from Arabs and Jews. So really nothing much. But Mr. Speaker, let me say one of them is a migrant or migrant. What's wrong with a migrant owning land? If you have occupied that land more than 100 years, what's wrong with that? Mr. Speaker, people, the way how they address this issue, it's as if this issue is not happening elsewhere in the world. One, you remember here, there was a time in Uganda here, we wanted to rush with Kenya, Mijingo Island. Some people had even to rush to London to get some experts from Europeans.
And to look at the titles.
Look at the titles.
You know our titles are kept in London.
Who is
our title?
Yes.
As a country.
Yes.
Is in London.
Yes.
So they are our landlords.
Yes.
And we are saying we are free. How free are you?
Yes.
When you are a tenant in your own country.
And you know, these are serious issues we should be even talking about. But now people go mix with Arabs, mix with Muslims. Islamic is not even a religion.
Hey, what is it?
It's a culture. Look at the way how they practice. They're pure Arabs. The way they dress. This is culture. I don't know how it became a religion.
Hey.
Yes, I don't know.
It's not a religion, it's a culture.
It's a culture.
And it's not our culture.
By the way, scholars find it very hard to separate the two. How do you separate
culture and
the culture of Arabs
and their religion
and Islamic as a religion? How do you separate, you guys, the followers? Mr. Speaker, there is what we call chauvinism.
Chauvinism.
Yes. Some Arabs, for certain extent. By the way, when I was checking some books, there are many Palestinians and Israelis that have some origins from Egypt. And others you may call them Africans. Mr. Speaker, the issue of historical distortions and injustices is even seen. For instance, in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, there is a very big land called Maasai land. This land is owned by Maasai, but it's a national park. What will happen in the future when the sons and the daughters of the Maasai wake up one morning and claim that land? Will it call it a region? There was a time here in Uganda when the Basongora raised up in Queen Elizabeth, the landless. They said, we have nowhere to go. Now, don't you think these things are still in the minds of the Basongora elites? That at a certain time they will claim this land? So the entire world has not been actually handling the issue of land seriously. Then the first point, some people are saying, there are some Jews in the USA. What is the problem? What is the problem? What is the problem? A Jew owning a big position in the world. What is the problem? A Ugandan taking a big position in the world. What is the problem having many Ugandans in the United States? So are you persecuting the Jews because they are clever or they are the minority in the world? And therefore the minority should not have land or should not be settled? What are you insinuating? Because you see, when we are discussing these things, people should not mix excitement with sentiments. What's wrong with Jews being Americans? What's wrong with having an African Jews? Even in Uganda, we have African Jews. And I'm part of them. Yes. I'm an African Jew. Because many Hamites migrated from Ethiopia. And there are many Ethiopians who are African Jews. So I believe that I'm an African Jew. What is the problem? We have here Rwandese who are Ugandans. We have Congolese here who are Ugandans. What is the problem? We have Barack Obama, who is a Kenyan, who became a head of state in the United States. What is the problem? Why can't also Jews become very important people where they are? Why you discriminate these people? They have been persecuted in their land. Wherever they go, I want to thank Mr. Somas. Wherever they have migrated to and being persecuted. The only mistake, Mr. Speaker, in 1948, when they declared Israel as a state, there was a mistake. There was a mistake and it was deliberated. The United Nations would have declared Palestine also as a state. Because I remember by then, it is only Mr. Yasser Arafat who convinced the United Nations Palestine to be recognized as a state. And it's just recently. So, to me, if you want to balance the equation, regardless of sentiments and excitement, the Palestinians also have the right to have their own state. But in claiming the ownership their state, they should not violate the rights of Israel also to belong where they should belong. Good evening.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
We all know that this crisis was brought up by the UN. On November 29, 1947, United Nations adopted Resolution 181, also known as Partition Resolution, that would divide Great Britain's former Palestine mandate into Jewish and Arab states. So, a call to the UN Security Council. All this problem is on the UN. It is the one which started the issue by creating the state for Israel. So I think it's UN which should work more to resolve this issue. And as we know, as Africans, we care about this issue.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
We have seen the Prime Minister of Germany. I've seen the Prime Minister of Germany. We have seen the Chancellor of Germany. We have seen the American President Biden, and yesterday the UK Prime Minister visiting Israel and talked to the Prime Minister of Israel, and all of them, they were supporting Israel to really increase the attack of Gaza, and they're on their side. So this clearly shows that they have interests in this war. It's not all about now a land conflict. It's all about what we get from there. It has now gone beyond the land conflicts. You get another thing. Another question is about we are seeing that these Western powers invaded in the Ukraine war, which was between Russia and Ukraine. Now, again, these very people are the ones in the war of Israel. They are supporting Israel to destroy the other. What do you think about the stand of Russia? Would Russia take this war as an opportunity to revenge against the Western powers for failing Russia all this long time to demolish Ukraine?
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
Now, according to the trade records found in Aruba and Mali, it indicates that Palestine, the region, was referred to as Canaan as early as BC. It was referred to as Canaan. And when I come to the biblical approach, as Mr. Kashagama was doing, we all know how Israelites occupied Canaan. If you read well Exodus, the Israelites were promised Canaan. So they went to Canaan as a land promised to them by their God. When they reached in Canaan, what they did was killing and displacing each and every one. Their God, who at the same time gave the sixth commandment of do not kill, ordered them to kill everyone who was in Canaan. So it's controversial. That past war generated and groomed hatred in many of those who came after.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
I would like to start by quoting the words of the famous president.
Who is
Putin? Mr. Putin.
He's very famous.
Yes, very famous today.
If you America had you saying that way.
Okay, he says in his interview with RG last week on Friday that the United States has monopolized the process of resolving the Palestinian-Israel war. Meaning, whatever the United States does, it lies within the interest of whatever they want to do. So at the end of the day, you will find that instead of bringing peace, they are advocating for war. Then I would like to talk also on something that I read on Twitter recently. there was a famous preacher who says, Africans, whenever they are praying, they pray that the God of Israel should help them to fight their enemies. When yet the Israel themselves are using weapons to fight their enemies. I think that is a mindset question that I leave to everyone to think about. Thank you so much.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
Too much people thinking that America is so strong, so powerful. Like whatever they do, they achieve because they're American. So even if they go to Israel, they might have a plan and their plan will be executed and work. That's a lot of the tonality of what we hear. We forget that Americans have lost Afghanistan to the Taliban. The Taliban have managed to kick Americans out. We forget that Americans are not the number one power of today. They were the number one power of yesterday. When all of us were born, America was number one. But now it's Chinese. Chinese are number one. Chinese are the first partner for Africa, not Americans. So China is as powerful as America right now, probably more powerful, and in the future way much more powerful, way much more powerful. We also need to say America was a dominant power from the end of the Cold War, more or less when I'm born, 1989, until like 4 or 5 years ago. But now America is challenged everywhere, and America do not have the solutions, which is also why those conversations here are important, because we are the one that can bring new solutions. But America is not the power that it once was. I think it's really important we all understand. So, if the UN inherited the problem, the Israelis were already colonizing the land of Palestine, and they tried to be recognized by the UN. And so to ask for today for the UN to help, and I know it's not exactly like they're going to sort out the situation, but even to think that they can help is to misunderstand. UN is helping nowhere. UN is not helping anymore. UN is an old club of Second World War powers that is not so important anymore. UN need to be reformed. There's no African countries in the Security Council of the UN. How is that normal? India, 1.3 billion people, not in the UN Council. So UN, where it stands, is a dead institutions that try to survive. Okay? Pretend they're not dead. But the truth is multilateralism as it was imagined after the Second World War is already dead. It has been replaced by the BRICS, it's been replaced by the G20, and it is, the American power is in decline because also of those facts.
The Pan-African Pyramid debate.
In law, there is what we call powerful persuasion. I want to take it that my friend and young brother Prince Kasagama Arari has made a very powerful, persuasive, powerful submission, and if one was not alert, he would sway you to his side, which with a lot of respect, I disagree with. I want to state, therefore, that like we say in the legal regime, that the persuasion submission was very persuasive, but I conclude by saying it was nevertheless not correct. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's also my submission that the proposal made by my brother that the Israelis, the Palestinians must live along with the Israelis, but they must at all material times know that that land belongs to the Israelis. Itself, I find it extremely disturbing, because the intention of the creation of the creators of the Jewish state, or the Israeli state, is to make sure that they get rid of all people whom they consider not to be Israelis. And it is very evident from where they started from, the kind of policies they have been instituting is to make sure that they eliminate, forcefully grab the land, give it to themselves, and do away by whatever means possible with other races or tribes in what they call the state of Israel. It is therefore my submission, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the immediate solution, therefore, is to lift the siege on the Gaza Strip, and also, of course, which is not happening. It is a proposal, because I know what they are going to achieve. They are going to make sure that the entire Gaza Strip is another desert which they are going to claim they are rebuilding, because I have had the narrative of Benjamin Netanyahu and also the ambassadors. And I know that the West Bank is also on target, because the entire country, ultimately, the creation of the Palestinian, of the Israeli state, is with the intention of adding on the Golan Heights, the Sinai, to make sure that the entire strip, the entire country called the state of Israel, behaves and acts as a proper geostrategic location of particularly America and European Union, for very obvious purposes, easy entry and also having a take on the happenings within the Middle East. I want to conclude therefore by observing that having said all that, it is very imperative that this biblical narrative, we must find a way, and this I can see that is becoming a very big problem of being captured by the Bible. This Bible is a weapon. It could be Kasagama would be representing so many other people, and I don't want to say that what he has said is wrong. I've just simply said the courage of debate that I disagree with him.
It is neither wrong or
I simply don't agree with his submission, especially in as far as the state of Israel is concerned, and that it is their land which was given by God. I want to say that in the present circumstances, we must watch beyond, read and appreciate the global events beyond the biblical text.
Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.